Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
Scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Holla! Welcome to the live stream tonight, guys. Science and Technology Saturday. Thank you all for being here. Thank you guys for appeasing my change of the stream night to Saturday. I was not feeling it last night. I was wiped the hell out from working all week. Believe it or not, still have a normal job, still doing a 9 to 5, somehow still doing all this on top of all that. I'm living with my feet in 2 different worlds at the moment, chat. So thank you guys. Okay, to get started tonight, we're here a few minutes early. So while we have a few minutes before we really begin, I want to show this follow-up video that Ken Wheeler did on free energy. Was it yesterday? Yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. Because just as somebody else said in here, does anybody else think that the UFO narrative is just bullshit? Ashton pretty much debunked it. And I don't like the word debunk. The word debunk gets used by lazy-minded people to just dismiss things they don't want to understand. But I would say we have shined a light on the UFO disclosure movement, and we've exposed it in every sense. We've exposed all sides as basically being incompetent at best, and at worst being malicious, pushing narratives that really don't change anything about our world. And by this, I mean that aliens existing changes nothing about our world. The people that are obsessed with aliens, and if you ask yourself and you're honest with yourself, somebody who's obsessed with aliens, you're obsessed because you want to be validated. You want your beliefs to be validated. End of the world, aliens existing, aliens visiting us, doesn't change anything about our lives. What does change our lives is the energy sources that they might be using in order to be able to visit us. That changes every aspect of our lives. So are aliens real? Maybe. I don't know. I also don't care. At the end of the day, the alien narrative that's being pushed is a psyop, not necessarily because aliens are real or aliens are fake. It's a psyop because it distracts us from the things that would change our world. There is an elite group of people, you can call them the deep state, whatever you want, but they're not just government, that control our world, and they think they are better than us. They think they are better than us, and they know what's better for us than we know for ourselves. That's just the truth. That's how the world really works. So let's start real quick before we get kicking here. I want to show just about maybe 5 minutes or less from this video with Ken Wheeler. Again, I don't endorse any particular person that I show their content on my stream. I consider this like reaction viewing, like, you know what those kids do on Kick and on Twitch. They react to people's opinions. That's what we do, but we react to people's opinions on science and physics and free energy and 0-point energy in general. Okay? Ken Wheeler, when we watch this, I actually start to wonder if Ken Wheeler has been watching my content. Now, it may just be that everybody's kind of converging on these ideas at the same time. That's also certainly plausible. But listen to a lot of the stuff he says here. All of a sudden, this guy is like all about free energy being real, because of course it's real. Once you realize there's this massive source of energy that's out there, it seems obvious that we can engineer and interact with it. So here we go.
This video, but anyway, we put the military-industrial complex completely out of business. I said bismuth again. This is what sleep deprivation looks like. What would go extinct overnight? There's an extremely long laundry list. Airlines, energy companies, natural gas, engine manufacturers, coal would end, natural gas would end, crude oil would end, solar would definitely end, hydroelectric would end, nuclear power generation would end. Total liberation from the GOVT.
So right off the bat, he's talking about like guys, if you think about what is going to end if we have free energy, everything, all these industries are done overnight. Solar, nuclear, every form of energy production, every form of travel and propulsion, all completely obsolete immediately overnight. What we're going to hear, we're going to watch the Mr. X interview in a little bit. Mr. X lays it out and says, Lockheed Martin makes too much money selling obsolete fighter jets to the United States government. They're making billions from that. It's a steady stream of income selling old, obsolete technology in the form of rocket propulsion. This is why the defense contractors don't want this stuff to come out. It ruins their business model. It obsoletes all of the old stuff. Don't worry, we'll get to who Mr. X is. I don't know their real identity, but we'll get to that soon.
The government would lose control. What are you going to do? The millionaires got Martian bases or lunar bases. It's like, well, I've already got the free energy craft. With free energy craft, all you have to do is build some sort of titanium structure. And since it's scalable, you could haul pressurized containers to the moon. Who's going to stop you? Nobody owns the moon. There's no laws up there that control humanity.
That's another really good point. Like, if we have this free energy, what's stopping people from just going to mess around on the moon? There's no laws governing the moon. You want to send something up there? You want to go live on the moon? Go for it. Now you're a sovereign citizen. Now you're a moon person. There's going to be people literally just going up to live on the moon. People are going to build their bunkers on the moon.
If you had a handful of geniuses building free energy devices, installing it in a pressurized titanium hybrid ship of some variety, because anti-gravity is not the fascinating part. Everybody's fascinated by anti-gravity. Ooh, look at that. It's got a glowing plasmoid field around it, which of course that's the case, and it's got vectored propulsion. It could stop on a dime because it's actually isolated from forward momentum. That actually fascinates people, but it fascinates people the same way that puppets fascinate children. Children are fascinated by the puppets, but a smarter person is fascinated by the person, controlling the puppets. Like, that guy's got some serious skills. That's one good puppeteer. I can't see him, but I know he's there.
Ken Wheeler pops off, guys. I'm starting to like this guy's cocky attitude. I kind of like it. He's like, the craft levitating, the UFO levitating and flying off. That like, for children, that's intriguing, right? He's making fun of people because smart people that understand physics understand there is no propulsion mechanism based on conventional physics inside of this UFO. If you think there's UFOs hovering around, floating around, shooting off at hypersonic speeds with no inertia, the energy requirement is not possible based on conventional understanding of physics. There would have to be so much mass in the form of propulsion inside this thing, there's nowhere to put it. And the more mass you add to it, the more energy it takes to move it around. So it's a double-edged sword. Hurts you both ways. The person who is the critically minded, free thinker, they say, what's the puppet master pulling the strings? And that is, what is the source of that energy? What's that energy source? That's the real trick. That's the real prize. If aliens are flying to us from the Andromeda Galaxy through a wormhole, I don't give a shit about how many tentacles they have or whatever what color their skin is. What I care about is how the hell did you get here? What is the energy source that you got here on? The tentacle monsters and the jellyfish monsters aren't going to change our world at all. What will change our world is now we're not primitives anymore. Now we're using 0 point energy all around us, and we are completely free from the government.
What's fascinating about anti-gravity field propulsion tech, and everything is either a boom tech, like gasoline, liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen, all the rockets that have been launched, and that's all boom tech. Your
This is where I think he's listening to me, chat. He's talking about boom tech now. Remember when I said we're basically primitives? Ooh, big boom. Shoot rocket up high, sky. Very good. Clap, 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 clap. Like with Elon Musk stuff. Like he's literally explaining it too. Like no matter what propulsion you use, it's E equals MC squared. The amount of energy, you need an equivalent amount of mass. The only way around this is you have free energy. Free energy. And the free energy comes from all around us. It's free in the same way that wind and solar are free.
Busting, not rockets in the case of gasoline or propane or coal, but hydrazine, liquid oxygen, on and on and on. That's just boom tech. There's only two types of propulsion systems. There's boom tech and then there's field propulsion tech. Field propulsion tech, well, where are you going to get super near bottomless, essentially bottomless amounts of power from? You're not going to get it from any of the fuel that fuels boom tech, as I humorously call it boom tech. It goes boom. You light it, it goes boom. That impels you a certain distance, the same way your internal combustion engine works, of course, to drive you down the road. Anything a battery works. Even the battery gets charged off of boom tech. It's like, what do where are you getting the power to charge those 10,000 lithium cells in your Tesla car? And people don't ask themselves that question. The real puppet master behind anti-gravity, i.e. field propulsion tech, is free energy devices. That is the real wonder. That's the real mystery. Anti-gravity is not something fantastical. It is to a superficial mind, but it's not. I mean, everything operates off the right-hand rule. You usually see a hand that looks like this. Just go look up the right-hand rule. There's 10,000 explanations for the right-hand rule. If you know the direction of the current, and you know the flow of the energy, you know the vector.
So the right-hand rule, guys, if you guys are new and you're wondering where to start, you have to understand quantum mechanics and you have to understand electrical engineering, because the universe itself is electric. You need to understand both of these fields of study, which is part of the reason why mainstream physicists are so lost, because they're not engineers. They keep going based on the theory as opposed to what we can experimentally prove. The right-hand rule in electrical engineering is the secret to everything. The right-hand rule in electrical engineering explains why power doesn't actually flow through wires, and it actually flows through fields instead. The right-hand rule is absolutely essential to understand for just getting to the basics of all this.
Very, very simple. So the question is the field propulsion tech. Total liberation from the government. Could you imagine what that loss of control would look like? The military-industrial complex itself relies on various spectrum of boom tech. I mean, that would all end overnight. If you could have a smart kid with a soldering iron, which I got a soldering, here we go. I was just using this last night. I got a soldering iron right here. Yeah, good one too. Actually, it's a lot better than this. This is a good one though. Give with a soldering iron and some decent skills, and he can create a a free energy device. Who is he answerable to? And keep the lights on 24/7. I can feed my robots and all my devices. I disconnect from the grid completely. I don't need I don't need anything other than food and water. The super mega billion dollar subs.
So that was a great point too. If you can produce your energy, who are you answerable to? Think about that, chat. If you can produce your own free energy, who are you answerable to? Nobody. No one. You don't have to have any worldly connection to any government on this planet. You can just go live somewhere off the grid somewhere. Nobody even knows you're there. And you have all the comforts of standard living. You can connect to everything. This is what's incredible about that. Plus, here's the other side of it. Still answering to farmers, Ryan says, but are you? Wait, you got ahead of yourself, Ryan. You got ahead of yourself. You didn't listen to all of it just yet. But the thing about it, too, is that the people that have this technology are answerable to no one. So there's two ways to look at it. If we had it, we would be unanswerable. There's no government we would have to answer to. But the same people that already have it don't answer to any governments right now because they're that powerful, truthfully. Now let's go to the next part. We're almost done.
Created and run by the U.S. government. Of course, there's other governments that actually have.
Okay, so here's the thing. Submarines, guys. Submarines are really interesting to think about regarding this technology. Because if we can produce elements, we can pull hydrogen straight out of the vacuum, not just energy, but elements directly out of the vacuum, and we can transmute elements, then you have everything you need. A free energy device gives you literally everything you need. You can grow food with a free energy device by powering the lights. Hydroponics, exactly. Just as Jessica just basically figured out. I want you guys to listen very carefully to what he talks about here related to submarines. I would be extremely surprised, I don't know this for a fact, if submarines already are not using free energy devices. Because listen to what he's about to say.
You know the only reason they have to surface? They actually desalinate the water from the oceans. They got unlimited drinking water. Also generates oxygen for breathing. The only thing they ever have to surface or come to port for is food. Essentially unlimited energy for propulsion. All you need to breathe and all the water you'll ever need to drink. The only shortage is food. Imagine that on a much, much higher scale, except Joe Schmo that's good with electronics and knows how to solder can build a scalable free energy device. Who is he answerable to? What are you going to do to him that is going to upset his system, is going to furrow his brow? Think about how much time you spend working, other than taxes, which is quite significant. How much time we spend working to pay the utility bill? Well, that's a huge loss of control. Now, people would grow their food in the basement, but it requires a lot of super power-sucking lighting. Hydroponics, a lot of power. So I'm not going to spend $300, $500 a month to grow $100 worth of food. You're not going to spend $500 a month to grow $100 of food, roughly, right? Well, with free energy, you can be growing your own food.
So I think that's all we're going to watch of his thing. But that's a great point. Why do you not just grow your own food with hydroponics? Because producing the light is very expensive. With a free energy device, no issue anymore. Do you know one of the biggest commercial interests that we had with the EtherTech device was grow farms, marijuana grow farms, because of how much power they use. So it can significantly reduce the costs. And of course it's a cost benefit analysis in terms of like how expensive is the device and what's its longevity, et cetera. But these are what they're going to be used in early on, like Bitcoin mining, grow farms, stuff like that, stuff that's very high power intensive. That is a big portion of the costs. Those are going to be the people that use it right away. Also, database farms is another one as well. Any kind of database farm, same kind of idea as crypto mining. Okay, so the free energy device discussion is really good. Also, thank you. If you guys have just joined, thank you very much for jumping in the chat today, guys. We're going to watch a couple of videos. We're going to look at a little bit of science papers, talk a little bit at 0 point energy. And then we're going to call it after that. So one thing I also want to say too here at the beginning, do a little rant on 0 point energy. So if you're new to 0 point energy, what do you need to know? First thing you need to know is space is not empty. Space is not an empty vacuum. And that makes a lot of sense because waves don't transmit through empty vacuums. If space was an empty vacuum, how would an electromagnetic wave transmit through it? It wouldn't. What we know from quantum mechanics is nothing is ever really at rest. So even a pendulum that swings back and forth, when it stops, it's actually still jiggling a little bit. Still a little bit of jiggle at the quantum level. Never stops. What 0 point energy in quantum physics tells us is that at the smallest scales, we are in this equilibrium of energy. We don't feel it. We can't measure it because we are in equilibrium. It's like if you're on the surface of the ocean, you can't see any ripples in the ocean. Doesn't mean there aren't any. They're just imperceptible to you. using water is a good example because people like Winterberg, who is a project paperclip physicist that came over from Germany, would claim that this energy that we're in is a superfluid in an extra dimension, as Kaluza-Klein explained in 1926. And therefore, it acts much like liquid. Now, the other thing you need to understand is that space is not empty. You need to understand that there's a huge amount of energy, even in just this little cap, to boil all the Earth's oceans. There's infinite energy, even a small area, practically infinite. And it replenishes as well. It replenishes. And so instead of using wind or solar, we can use the energy that's all around us. It's better than wind and solar because we're not dependent upon wind blowing around on Earth. We're not dependent of light coming from the sun. The next level is use the energy that's all around us all the time. We're in this equilibrium state of energy. We can pull that energy out, pull it out. We can interact with it using electromagnetism. And when we do that, we also manipulate gravity. We can also manipulate the temperature as well. More energy is hot, less energy is cold. The other thing that you need to understand is scalar physics. Scalar physics basically says if I have two waves that are in phase, meaning they're exact reflections of one another, there are two waves in phase would be like two waves on top of each other, exactly on top. If they're 180 degrees out of phase, they're reflections of one another, and when they hit, they cancel each other out, and there's nothing left. Imagine like the ocean is perfectly flat. With respect to scalar physics, they would say that even when you cancel out your wave like that, and it can be done through a phase conjugate mirror perfectly reflects waves back onto themselves. And so does four-wave mixing. That's another term you can look up, four-wave mixing. Both of these cause an interacting wave to have a perfect reflection. This cancels it out. When you cancel out your electromagnetic wave like this, there's nothing left. You're actually sending waves through the ether of energy. We just don't see it. We can't interact with it, but you're manipulating potentials in this sea of energy. So these are the most important things that you need to understand when it comes to 0-point energy. Because once you look at the world like that, space is not empty. Zeroing out an electromagnetic wave does not leave nothing behind. There's still this potential that can be interacted with. Then the sky's the limit. Gravity manipulation, manipulating gravity for communications, propulsion, energy, everything that we want to manipulate it for. It all comes down to using this scalar potential, which I think is analogous to a gravity wave, for all the different applications. You can use it to map the planet. Like we can shoot gravity waves down and we can find out where all the caves are and the holes everywhere in the planet. We can do that too. It's pretty incredible. Okay. I get asked about Terrence Howard a lot. Check out the Hodge Twins podcast. It's probably next Friday. I talk about Terrence Howard a little bit. So I think Terrence Howard needs a little bit more education on physics and what have you, but I think he understands intuitively that there's more going on in the universe than what we perceive and what mainstream physics tells us. A lot more. Okay. If you want a bigger deep dive into all of what I just said, well, check out any of the other live streams and what have you that we've talked about it, or take a look yourself. I also do want to quickly highlight, was it Larry Reed? Larry J. Reed. Okay, here we go. Okay. I want to highlight this guy. So if you question any of this, realize that I've never read this guy's work before. He's got a whole textbook on quantum wave mechanics. This one's called Graviton Model, explaining the graviton. In fact, let's go to his full papers, Larry Reed. I asked some of my people about him. Apparently, he's a smart guy. If you look at this is all just one big textbook, and he's got all these different chapters on it. Quaternions, phasors, generalized Newtonian gravitational law, gravitational frequency, tensors, Hamiltonian, bound particle states, gravitation. What are some of the other interesting ones? There's one about the Planck ether hypothesis, electric charge, Coulomb's law. Planck ether, there it is. I don't know, I lost it. Origins of inertia. So check this guy out, Larry Reed. There's a lot of people that have figured this out, and they just haven't got the attention they deserve, frankly. They haven't got the attention they deserve. Okay, so let's take a quick look at this other. There's a device that I think has some promise here that I want to look at with you guys, and then we're going to look at Mr. X interview. Okay, so this device, someone just sent me this today. It was published today, October 19th. Catalyzed fusion system produces electricity, runs indefinitely without power input. Okay, now you have my attention. Right off the bat, just reading this, I can tell we're talking about cold fusion here, and hopefully it's better than the ECAT. Energy cells, it's not ECAT, fuse hydrogen nuclei producing photons or light, as well as directly producing electrons or electricity. So when I read this, my first thought is dynamic Casimir effect. Dynamic Casimir effect shows that we can pull photons directly out of the ether. So they have this product called ENG8, been developing a range of catalyst fusion reactors. So the question is, what's the catalyst? What's the catalyst? The problem with the ECAT is the price point doesn't make any sense. Price point's too cheap for the ECAT for me to believe that it's legit cold fusion. If I called these people up for a device, my guess is we're talking 50 to 100 grand, maybe more. Just my guess. Their system, based on low-energy nuclear reaction technology, is reported to be capable of operating indefinitely without any external input power. Self-powering system will also be able to export net electricity, according to the company. This is claimed to be the global first milestone for catalyzed fusion. So the thing about this one is, what's the catalyst? What is the catalyst for this? So a catalyst, guys, is something where you're causing a reaction to happen, where you've got this catalyst. So what I want to know is, is there a fuel source for this? Yeah, I think that they might be so a lot of what these people do, though, is they play with terms, right? They're trying to fit what they're experimentally seeing within the model they were taught to think. And so you have to take what they say with a grain of salt. What we want to know is, how is this actually operating? Yeah, this is my same thought as quantum gravity. This might get shelved pretty quickly. Like, someone's going to buy these people out, and then they're going to disappear, and we're never going to hear about them ever again. That's what's going to happen. Independent validation confirms the company's claim of achieving a device capable of indefinite operation without external power. We can consider the device can operate indefinitely without any external input power. To me, so wait, are you not pumping like deuterium into this thing? How does that work? True, and the reason why I'm interested is because I don't think you need a fuel source. From what we've seen with plasma and self-organizing plasma, the fuel source is the medium itself. That seems to be the fuel source. They are literally just producing energy by their nature, where they naturally have an asymmetry in these plasmas. Whilst hot fusion struggles to produce net energy, catalyzed fusion technology is miles ahead and offers a viable source of zero-emission, affordable green energy to drive the economy. So this is interesting, too, because they compare against hot fusion. So what they're saying is this is literally cold fusion. They figured out how to create fusion reactions at low temperatures, which we already know are possible. They added the NG8 already has secured interest from several industrial customers with the energy requirements ranging from 3 megawatts to 8 gigawatts. That's interesting. But I mean, getting interest is fine. We had interest in EtherTech as well. It's a big difference when you actually have a contract signed. The company maintains that the energy cells fuse hydrogen nuclei, producing photons or light, and directly producing electrons or electricity. They are currently producing electricity on the scale of milliwatts to tens of kilowatts. If I were to bet on which low-energy nuclear reaction companies would be first to market, ENG8 would be in my top 2, said Alan Smith, CEO. Guys, if this goes to market and it's legit, this is a major buy. Major buy. In fact, I would potentially move all my money out of semiconductors and move it into cold fusion. Semiconductors are great, but I'm realizing cold fusion is like the real future. The company also claimed that previous independent validations carried out by IEP in Portugal and other renowned laboratories have proved that energy cells produce net energy with the safe levels of emissions that are well within EU limits. It has 2 main components. The first is the energy cell, where the LENR reactions that release energy take place. The second is the system that supports the energy cell. Both components are mass producible. So it's cheaper than wind and solar. The fuel source is the water molecule, where ionized H2O molecule supplies the hydrogen ions needed for catalyzed fusion. So right off the bat here, I'm definitely getting some thoughts about Stanley Meyer and negative energy, and using negative energy to collapse down water into hydrogen and oxygen. Yeah, cavitation. Yeah. A primary energy release mechanism is catalyzed fusion process. Okay, we've already said this like 3 times in the same article. How many times does it have to say that it produces electricity? Yeah, see, it can produce chemical energy in the form of hydrogen and oxygen. So this is definitely, they're definitely using negative energy here to break down water into hydrogen and oxygen. So this is a great example. Like, this is one that's almost certainly legit. And we know, because if you've been following these streams, we know what negative energy can do. Negative energy can break water down into hydrogen and oxygen at a very low, I mean, literally produces energy. So this is sounding very legit when you see it, but also you can tell what they're doing is they have to be very careful about how they talk about this type of technology. Because if you start talking about this as a free energy device, now you get a lot of negative feedback. They don't care how it's happening. They just want to produce a product that people buy. And this is part of the reason why a lot of the free energy stuff it's almost like the term UFO, why they had to change UFO to UAP. But we're bringing back UFO. I just refuse to say the UAP when I'm talking about UFOs. Same thing with free energy. People say, why are you calling it free energy if it's not really producing energy from nowhere? It's accessing energy. Shouldn't you call it something else? Yeah, I sometimes call it over unity, but I like the term free energy. I'm not letting them take the terms away. We're bringing the term free energy back. We're bringing the term ether back. Narrative control and control over language is one of the most powerful forms of disinformation. Yeah, I always say UFO, never say UAP, guys, unless, yeah. UFO is our term. It's our term. Free energy is our term. You can't say that to us. Yeah, it's racist to say free energy. It's racist to say free energy unless you believe in over unity, guys. Just FYI. Okay, and here you go. Company also stated that it's using proprietary intellectual property, including patent and patent applications. The amount of energy released is significantly greater than used to form the plasma. There you go. So what they're saying is they're making like they're literally telling you what they're doing. They're making cold fusion out of the plasma, and then it's producing more energy than what it takes to cause. There you go. Don't worry, we're gonna look this company up. Now we're gonna find out what we can find about this company. So this company's called what is it called? Gibraltar. Isn't Gibraltar where you go to like hide from the government? Looks like NG8 is the name. Okay, 1 second, Google it. Okay. Okay, let's see. Oh, guys, Reddit came up on the list. Let's see what's up with Reddit. It's not gonna. Is this gonna try to log me in? Oh, I'm already logged in. So just in case you need confirmation that I am indeed banned from Reddit, you can see right at the top, this account has been permanently banned. Check your inbox for a message. I don't know if I did the formal appeal, but I like replied and asked why I was banned and why I would be banned for hate speech for saying that there's people who are mentally ill on this subreddit on this website, but whatever. I just don't care. Okay, so let's see what the Redditors think. This is an infomercial, not a science article. Okay. Looks like they've been in development since 2015. Yeah, so they've improved the coefficient of performance from 1.8 to 5. So it's sounding very, very legit already. That would make sense that they would be getting it better and better and better. They simply blow air into the cell as a vortex and then get hot air out. Yeah, so they're creating plasma. It looks like it's just pulling the air straight out of around us. Yeah, it creates a reduced pressure reverse flow, cold region. So they are literally producing negative energy. That's like cavitation, guys. Whoever said that cavitation. Bradley Stewart, thank you very much, man. Appreciate you. Thank you for the donation. They aren't ejecting any air from the usual red hot, but allowing it to spiral back up out of the central nozzle. Yeah, I'm very interested in this company. No breakthrough here. Air isn't hot enough, not even close. So here you go. This is where the Redditor brain people are not realizing that we don't need high temperatures. We don't need high temperatures. So this is like Reddit retards don't know what they're talking about again. Let's take a look at this one. Here's one on a fusion subreddit. Any responses? I'm guessing most of the people are going to be idiots on this one as well. Let's watch. It sounds like snake oil. Proton-neutron fusion produces 2.2 MeV deuterium. Your neutron source would likely take far more energy output to run. Here's the reply. The science they claim is based on 700 pages of literal lunatic ramblings, claiming to have solved all major outstanding issues in modern physics. You mean 0-point energy? How much do you want to bet the science on this is based on 0-point energy? How much do you guys want to bet? We have never looked into this company before. I never knew today. I can guarantee it's based on 0-point energy. 100% guarantee without even reading it yet, without even looking into it. I already going to know they're going to reference 0-point energy. The retards on Reddit don't understand how physics works. They don't understand electrical engineering. They don't understand the universe. They don't understand jack shit. But they literally will claim it's literal lunatic ramblings. Literal lunatic ramblings. That's how Redditors talk. These people are so full of themselves and couldn't be more confidently wrong. Let's see. And now they're just trying to, like, you know, destroy people's credibility because it's not about the science at all. It's about this person was a yoga instructor. Look at this. Next, they will announce room temperature superconductors. You couldn't ask for stupider people on the face of the earth. Like, just literal science deniers. These comments, the passage of time is going to make these people look like flat earthers. Actually, it's worse than flat earthers. Like, it's going to be like people that think like the sun revolves around the earth. Like, that's what these people are, basically. They're just like clergy that, like, just their religion is over and they just haven't realized it yet. I want to see. Oh, here we go. Here's a video explaining what happens. Here we go. So we believe somewhat biased. It's legit. Breaks a few laws of physics. Okay, well, here we go. Oh, here we go. Now we're already down to the Hasselback is a known fraudster. This is the same stuff that they say about me, guys. They'll say that Ashton's a known scammer. Known grifter, guys. It's known. It is known. Discovered cold fusion, solved the source of the Big Bang, invented anti-gravity and zero mass thrusters. There you go, chat. Rewritten how much you want to bet this is all wrong? So here you go. And then when you look at his story, this is the guy they're trying to claim is a quack and he's a grifter. He's a member of the International Academy for Systems Research, head of the aerospace section, the Academy of Sciences, International Academy of Ecology, Energy Edition, professor, PhD, a laureate prize from the government of Russia in the field of science and technology, and is included in one of the 100 leaders of the industry and science of the Commonwealth of Russia. This is the person they're trying to claim is a lunatic grifter. This is what I'm talking about, chat. You literally couldn't ask for better credentials than this. And here's, look, they're like, do you guys understand how they keep science from us? This is so crazy. Lol, if a single one of those papers was remotely true, he'd already have won multiple Nobel Prizes. See, here you go. This is exactly what I'm talking about. These people literally think that you win Nobel Prizes for proving that everybody else is wrong about everything. This is the same stupid shit that I hear from people where they're like, if free energy was real, you would be a trillionaire. These people are so stupid that their whole worldview is going to just pull apart like a sweater, like unraveling a sweater. These people have no idea how the world works. They don't know how the universe works. They don't understand physics. They don't understand electrical engineering. And they don't even know how the world works. They don't realize that they're just cattle that are being herded around. Their lives are meaningless. They're basically just being sent to the slaughter. They think, oh, I get to live on this planet for 75 years and consume. You don't realize you're just like a cattle to the elite people that literally know how the world and universe really operates. So now, without even reading that, I already know. In fact, let's click on that guy's link. Let's click on this link. Where is this link about his papers? Here you go, ResearchGate. So this is like literally his scientific research papers. 56 publications, 284 citations. 284 citations. Quantum field theory, general relativity, high energy physics, particle physics, field theory, fundamental physics, cosmology, quantum mechanics, theoretical astrophysics. The only thing missing is plasma. The only thing that's missing is plasma. The multiverse is a large quantum warp engine for forces of repulsion from a quantized vacuum similar to anti-gravity. Okay. CERN, LHC, SM, Standard Model, and Higgs boson are stuck in place. Let's see what else we got. Quantum superunification theory is quantum unified field theory. Yep, see? Somebody else figured out unified field theory, guys. So yeah, I'm very interested in this product. I am very interested. And notice it's coming out of Russia as well. So my guess is this is not happening in the United States because it would get shut down in the United States immediately. In Bob Greenier's last podcast on crop circles, he said scalar weapons can cause lithium to explode. Yeah, I actually saw that. Yeah, I think they can as well. I think they can. People were trying to claim that batteries couldn't explode. Yeah, that's bullshit. Or that like you can't cause a battery to explode. You definitely can. Now, I don't know exactly how you pull it off, but scalar weapons seem like a really, really good way to cause it. Just want to see some of these others. Formula for the variable speed of light. Variable speed of light in a warped space-time by gravity. Yeah. Of course, Redditors don't understand any of this. Einstein was misled by Michelson and Morley. Wow. Yeah, I like this guy, chat. I am very interested in this guy's cold fusion device. Very, very interested now. Very, very interested. Einstein was misled by Michelson-Morley. Yeah, that's the ether, the thing that we did to disprove the ether. Speed of light is not constant. It depends on gravity. We know the gravity is determined based on 0-point energy. Proven experimentally. Okay, well, I'm definitely reading some of this guy's papers. I am definitely reading some of this guy's papers. Cold fusion. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is a method of energy generation and a reactor for its realization. Oh, yes. Okay. So here's the thing, too, guys. If you have been following along, I can already tell. Oh, you guys are looking at shit. You're not looking at the right view. My bad, chat. That's on me, chat. So if you've been following, I can tell right away when somebody knows how the universe really works. And I can tell right away that this guy's legit. Right away, I can already tell that his theories are all based on 0-point energy. It's all based on the same model generally as Sakharov, Putov, Winterberg, Brandenburg, just to name a few guys that all basically know that quantum field theory is connected to general relativity through electricity, through 0-point energy. And it opens the door to negative energy states, which can allow for cold fusion. So cold fusion negative energy states are what allow for cold fusion to occur at temperatures that are not at the sun's level. Yeah, reading this guy's papers is going to be pretty good. We also know that the permittivity of space-time, the permittivity is not constant either. You can manipulate the permittivity of space, which changes the refractive index, which changes the speed of light. That opens the door to teleportation. Wormholes, warp drives, everything you want to do. Dude, this guy's got a lot of papers. Interesting. Okay. So what I want to know about this company is I want to know, does it have, my guess is there's no input. The air is the only input. I'm thinking is how this works. So I decided to briefly attempt some fact checking of the negative comments in this stream. As of today, while Googling, it does appear the company has many more bona fide members who are technical people. I'm unsure where the problems with some of the leading scientists on the team are. It's quite possible that some wanting to make money have jumped on the wagon with this company, but the technology is looking feasible. And I think that any large jump in technology proves it's impossible. And to think that any large jump in technology proves it's impossible, then God forbid you look at the invention of the whatever IC is and the leaps that took us in that fraction of time. Yeah. This is probably legit. Guys, this is probably legit. Winston Alexander, thank you for the donation, brother. Appreciate you. The Betts orb. I don't know, guys. I'm not really all in on metal orbs. The problem with a metal orb is it's heavy. Heavy things float. So, yes, maybe you can make a gravitational shield around it, but for me, the metal orbs don't really check out. Like, I think there's a small device. I don't think it even has to be a sphere. And it's probably spinning very rapidly or otherwise producing a very high frequency, like laser effect or emission of energy. And that's being amplified and turned into a plasma orb, which creates, and just like with that device might also be producing a similar effect as the orbs, but on a different scale, on a small scale. Not sure, but I need to know more about how that device operates. Actually, did I get a link to a video? Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. Oh, was this the one? We were watching. We were watching some like free energy thing where we were seeing something with like a laser or something like this. This is supposedly what it looks like. Chat. Pretty interesting. Supposedly that's what's happened. So you're seeing this plasma there. Somehow this is producing excess energy. Yeah, it's like cavitation plasma. So cavitation would be the negative energy pressure that's just causing it to collapse on itself, which is what's causing fusion to happen. So instead of having natural gravity like the sun compressing in, we're able to actually manipulate gravity, which causes the fusion to begin to occur. I'm pretty sure that's what's happening with this cavitation plasma with like mixing laser into it or some kind of whatever energy source it is. This is basically, I think, an analog to the dynamic Casimir effect. I think that's pretty much what's happening. My belief. Yeah, the speed of light is not actually a constant. That's the problem because we don't live because space isn't a vacuum; it's a medium. Okay. Okay. So very interested in this NG88. I think we found another free energy device. This might be one of the first cold fusion energy devices that are out there. Might be one of the first. Truthfully, like I like magnetic motors. Magnetic motors relatively simple, but I'm much more interested in plasma-based free energy and microchips. Microchips are better than plasma probably, but it requires more material science. Whereas plasma, they just want to orient into these self-organizing structures. Okay, next thing. I'm definitely going to post about this NG8, and I'm probably going to do a deep dive on this NG8 thing, and then maybe we'll do a live stream next Friday for Free Energy Friday, and we'll find out everything we can find out about this. I'm also going to read some of this guy's scientific papers as well. In fact, I need to write these down, put these in my thing. I'm going to read the guy's papers. But I already know it's based on 0 point energy. Yeah, it's Apple Juice chat. It's Apple Juice. Yeah, magnetic motors are honestly, it's kind of weird that like even magnetic motors kind of primitive. It's kind of primitive. It's like we just figured out how the universe really works. Let's make a magnetic motor race on it. Which, like, yeah, if all you have is an AC generator and you got to spin it, like just make a magnetic motor that does it automatically, right? But going beyond that, it's like, oh, you want the link to cold fusion? Got you. Going beyond the idea of a magnetic motor, though, it's just like we can just harness these effects on smaller scales. We can harness this with a microchip. Plasma is like seems to be the natural way where these structures and these effects of creating your dipole, electric charges that build up and create an asymmetry is where they occur. Okay. Okay. Next thing, we're gonna watch some Mr. X for about 20 minutes.
Then you have all these extra gradients from being pulsed at high frequency and having the shape of the craft and having the properties of the dielectric. And it all contributes to having a higher pressure on one side, a weaker pressure on the other side, and creating a net movement. Because gravity, this is a key concept I want your listeners to grasp. Gravity, mass, and inertia are all electrical phenomena. They are all manifestations of the scalar and vector potentials. But here's the thing.
I mean, so people ask right away, who's Mr. X? I don't know, but apparently he's a guy who totally understands 0 point energy. 0 point energy, charges, explain gravity, inertia, mass, all of these things. What we have to understand is that there's this huge sea of energy that's out there. That's what's causing the gravity, in addition to the mass that we see. In addition to it. So it's causing all of these effects. So every single time, why do I push 0 point energy? Because the MH370 videos are absolute proof that the theory of 0 point energy explaining the universe is correct. Simple as that. Negative energy states are possible. We can create a wormhole. We can create a warp drive. We're seeing all of it. The physics is real. It's legit. People have been talking about it. People have been whistleblowing about it. People ask, like, people would leak it. They do. They're constantly leaking it. Let me say this again. People are like, hey, if all of this physics, you know what? I'm going full screen. We're going full screen. A lot of people say, look, if this physics was real, they would be leaking it out. It wouldn't be able to stay hidden. People are leaking it. They're leaking it all the time. They're writing scientific papers about it. They're doing videos that I was just showing with Mr. X, who's a whistleblower, explaining it. They all go into elaborate depth on explaining it. And the only response is, that's lunatic ramblings. That's lunatic ramblings. I wasn't taught that at school. Me caveman, me thing, boom, go, make boom rocket, go fly sky. Yay! I'm crying. The rocket went in the sky. This is all just like stupid shit. We should be using the energy all around us. We should understand that the universe is electric. And we can manipulate the electric charge to do basically anything we want to do. We should know that because we're using this. I'm talking to you right now, live on a stream, using magical technology, even though you guys are anywhere else in the world right now. You know, it should be obvious, but somehow it's not. And the real kicker is Nikola Tesla believed that we could pull radiant energy, which is 0 point energy. There was no 0 point energy didn't exist as a term when Tesla existed, but he knew it was out there. He's the guy that invented all the power you use. It wasn't Benjamin Franklin. Nikola Tesla literally invented alternating current. 3-phase alternating current is what everybody's using and everybody has used for 100 years. We've never made it better. It's not because that's the limit. It's because we're idiots and we've been held down by some masters that want us to be slaves. They're like, okay, you figured out a generator can rotate and produce energy. That's good enough. Stop there. Stop there. Don't look into it anymore. No more questions. Don't ask where the energy is coming from. It's flowing through the wires. Energy's flowing through the wires. You don't need them anymore. Don't ask questions. Shut up. Consume. Okay, now let's go back to our man. So Mr. X, Mr. X is like the Banksy of exotic science. I want to know who this Mr. X guy is so bad. I'm considering reaching out to Jay of Project Unity, even though I can't really stand him. But he did a really good interview here. Props to him on that front. It's crazy to me. The other thing is this. It's crazy to me how all of this evidence is out there and nobody's put all the pieces together. Like, this is the part where I wonder, like, was I actually made for this? Because I came onto this scene knowing nothing about the history of UFOlogy, practically nothing about the physics, just as an investigator. And I found more evidence than I could have possibly dreamt of in my entire life. What people have to do is they have to stop assuming that everything is disinformation. Instead, assume that everything you read out there is true. How do all the pieces fit together? That's what people should do. If you want to be a true skeptic, you don't assume that everything is fake. You assume that everything is true, and how does the story weave together, and only rule out evidence that doesn't fit in with your cohesive story that you develop based on all the evidence. If you do that, it's a lot harder, but you will get to the truth much more often than the people that just say everything is fake, everything's a psyop, everything's disinformation, everything's been debunked. Be a detective. It is. It's called research. And you use the scientific method. Use the scientific method. Find the evidence that's out there. Come up with your initial hypothesis. Match your hypothesis against the evidence. What story does the evidence in totality tell you? In this case, the evidence of the story tells me this. We may or may not have found some technology. One way or another, we had a discovery occur back in like the 40s. And we realized there's energy all around us. And we can manipulate that. Maybe we started building flying saucers with it because we could use the electrostatic energy to make something float without propulsion. People thought it was aliens. They still think it's aliens today. At some point, we integrated this technology into our spy planes, which allowed us to produce a plasma sheath and achieve hypersonic travel. If you are interested in looking up the history of where they're hiding this stuff, look for any projects on hypersonic travel. Why? Because the plasma sheath and the hypersonic travel is the it's the connector to the plasma technology in general. At some point, we learned that we can turn the plasma sheath into a drone and we don't need a spy plane anymore. And now we've got something that has unlimited maneuverability and capability that can't be matched. And there's not even somebody in there, so nobody can even die in there anymore. We've been seeing these crafts, these orbs of energy floating around, and we've been assuming that they are aliens when we can tell there's no alien inside a glowing ball. But it's not a craft with anything inside of it. It's a glowing ball of energy. And of course, everybody, we're so disconnected with the science that everybody just looks at it and goes, well, that must be aliens. In fact, even the woman, Sarah Gunn, whatever her name was, she was on Ross Coulthart. She was in the National Geospace Intelligence Agency. She was an analyst. She's looking at this stuff that she's seeing, these orbs on satellite videos and stuff like that, just like the MH370 video. So, in fact, I'll pretend like I'm Sarah Gunn right now. Pretend like there's a cat picture behind me of a cat going, because that's basically what her background was. So she's looking at this, right? So she's seeing a video just like this. Imagine a very similar video to this, maybe no plane. Some orbs come in, and she's seeing this, and she's going, that's not human technology. That can't be human. I wasn't taught that. NASA never told me anything about manipulating gravity. But the smart person goes, oh, no, the history of this is that humans have figured out plasma technology. And now we've figured it out where like we can use a computer to make it do this. And then when we see the plane disappear, oh, that's not some impossible alien technology. That's technology the defense contractors have been working on for 40, 50 years. And they've finally made some progress, it looks like. And yeah, the part that blew me away with that woman is that first that she's saying aliens are real. Then she gets asked, do you see an alien? And she says no. She just says no. It's like, wait, how do you know aliens are real? So he asks her, and she's like, well, from my studies in UFOlogy, I know that aliens are real. It's like, what? You're an analyst. If you haven't seen an alien on a government video that you have classified information on, then why are you all in on aliens? It's because you just don't understand the physics, don't understand the science and the history of the science. If you understand those things, then you will understand what UFOs are and understand that we can actually do stuff on this planet that seems magical. Okay. And she started talking about the Dracos and the reptilians, and I'm like, lady, are you serious? How are you one of our NGIA like people? They love whistleblowers like her because she doesn't know shit. She doesn't know shit. Like if she knew plasma physics, then she could actually reveal information and be like, I saw EVOs on our satellites. Like if she was a credible person, that's what she'd be saying. But when she comes out here and she's saying, I never saw aliens, but I know aliens are real, and these are all the different species of the Dracos and what have you, and you've got a picture of a cat in your background going, like nobody's taking you seriously. You're completely doing exactly what the government wants, which is you're muddying the waters and you're pulling attention away from the sketchy shit that they're doing. Okay, I've gone off enough on her. I agree. I could use a hot chick as a co-host. I'm in the market for a hot chick as a co-host because like it would actually bring like a lot of attention to the case. Now, the problem is she has to be hot and no quantum mechanics. Well, or I could just get someone like what that K woman was from the NFL shows, whatever, just hot and like maybe she doesn't know enough physics, but you know, she's just there and she's hot. It's true. It's true, chat. If maybe I'll do a request for a form, but I don't want to be like superficial, you know, but you kind of have to be. It's TV. She has to be smart hot. Yeah, maybe she has to be like basically imagine like Nancy Mace, but Nancy Mace that understands physics. Like that's what we need. That's what we need, chat. Okay, let's get back to the video.
For the past nearly 100 years, most mainstream scientists have denied even the reality of the scalar and vector potentials. They try to say they're nothing but mathematical abstractions because about 100 years ago, it may not have been quite that long, Heaviside, which was another scientist, he gutted Maxwell's original equations and he quoted this himself. He said he murdered the vector potential. He despised the concept of it. He said it complicated the equation, so he just removed it.
Chat, what? You guys, I need you to realize that I had never listened to this guy before like a couple weeks ago. This video is 4 years old. It predates me. This video is made in the beginning of COVID. He's saying the exact same things that I've been saying. And he's a whistleblower insider on top of that. So how do I know this guy's legit, not disinformation? Because I've already discovered that everything he's saying is true. I've already discovered all of that. So then when you hear a guy be like, I'm a whistleblower insider and we have free energy and we have self-organizing plasmas and it's like the biggest secret out there, and it turns out Maxwell's equations were gutted by Heaviside, we lost the ability to manipulate gravity. I'm like, yeah, I've already figured that all out. Who is this guy? Is he still alive? Like, is Mr. X still alive? If Mr. X is out there and watching, I need you to reach out to me because we need to have a conversation if you're still alive.
And that's another reason I think we're held back scientifically as a civilization, because how can we learn to manipulate gravity, mass, and inertia if we deny the existence of this universal medium, the scalar potential and the vector potential, all around us? If it doesn't exist, we can't.
Like, perfect. If we don't recognize that we're in a medium, then of course we can't manipulate gravity, mass, and inertia. But we are in a medium. It's like saying that we can't go any faster in the water because we're not in the water, doesn't exist. Like if you're swimming in the ocean. You're like, of course water exists. That's why it's hard to run through it. When I go in the water and try to run, I get slowed down. Like literally, guys, that's inertia. So like, you go in the water and you move around, that's inertia. We're feeling that all the time. We don't recognize it because we're in the equilibrium state all the time. That's it. It's that simple. Once you realize space is not empty, space is a medium, you realize it is consistent with general relativity. It just looks at the problem differently. But it is, all of Einstein's stuff still calculates out. It's just that now we're in this medium. We lose the scalar potential, and now you can't transmit a wave through the medium anymore. How is that? How do we think an electromagnetic wave propagates?
Can't learn how to engineer it.
I think it's quite ironic that science has slipped into quite dogmatic and almost religious belief systems just in regards to very, guarded parameters that they maintain. And especially if someone's been a pioneer in that field, or written various papers and is a very acclaimed scientist, and then someone's coming and essentially disproving their understanding of physics or their concept that they've been addressing through their topics. People are very quick to respond with the ego, and I think that it plays a major role. And I think that probably people's egos and the lack of wanting to have one bruised has probably played a major role in suppressing this on its own, because people just don't want to try and address it, especially if it disproves their own theories.
And that's very true. And it's funny because Project Unity's own ego is what turned him against me. It was really just his own ego. That somebody else figured out all the stuff that he wanted to try to figure out himself, and someone beat him to the punch. But nothing against Project Unity in general. He's right there that, yes, it's ego that's holding back mainstream physics. And many of the mainstream physicists they don't work in labs. They don't do experiments. If you're not doing experiments, then you are just working based on theory and equations and not based on what we can practically produce. And that's the difference. That's why the engineers, you find, if somebody goes from an engineer to being a physicist, they're generally because they're trying to understand the theories for what they were already able to show. The other way around, physicists don't go become engineers generally because they just are all theory. So even you can be the best physicist, know all of math, and you can still know nothing about the universe. You can still not even know the basics of where energy comes from. This is why when you want to argue with people, chat, whenever somebody says free energy is not possible, all you have to say is, where's all the energy in the universe come from? That's all. Where's all the energy in the universe come from? The stuff that we see, where's all that coming from? Where's the energy on this light coming from? They don't have any answers. They have no answers. They'll say something that's just a circular argument. Like it comes from the chemical interactions. Like, no, but where's it coming from though? Where's that energy coming from? Yeah, it's coming from the Big Bang. And where'd the energy from the Big Bang come from? Nowhere. So energy can come from nowhere? No, that's impossible, right? And then you won. Simple as that. Simple as that. Because when you have a theory that explains all the questions, then what you should be doing is asking people. Actually, you know what? This is a great clip. I'm going to put it up there. When you have a theory that explains everything, you should be asking people to explain the things that their theories can't explain, and pushing your answers to your theories, because you're asking them to basically fact check your theories. So if you say that 0-point energy explains mass, inertia, and gravity manipulation, you throw that out there. And then when people come back at you and try to criticize you, you say, well, what do you think creates mass and gravity and inertia? And then it gets really awkward. Higgs field. Higgs field can only account for 2% of the mass. How do you account for the other 98%? What is dark energy, right? Ask them questions like that.
Of course. Mainstream science is very much like a cult, because they have their own pet theories. They don't like to stray from the mainstream. They're very dogmatic. The whole peer review process is rigged, so only papers that toe the mainstream line will ever get published in 99% of cases.
Okay, sorry to keep pausing, but this guy, I can tell this guy is super, super legit, because he realizes that the peer review process and scientific process is completely corrupted. Like, it's dead on arrival at this point. I can't tell you how many papers I've read that basically explain everything that I've been telling you guys. That's why it's not even me to discover this. Like, and it's not even fair for any one scientist to it. Like, I've got at least a half a dozen credible PhDs that all explain the same concept of the ether and 0-point energy explaining mass, gravity, inertia, right? It's all out there. So the question is, why is it not getting more attention? Why have they not won the Nobel Prizes? Why have they not become trillionaires? That's the scary part, because it's all corrupted. The media is corrupted. Peer review process, academia has been completely corrupted. We're at a point where science doesn't mean anything anymore. We have to bring science back, make science great again. We really do.
And that's why a lot of scientists around the world, because there's a growing number of scientists that are realizing that the scalar potential and vector potential is indeed real, because there's been a multitude of experiments again and again and again that prove it's real. Hal Puthoff, for example, has patents on transmitters that utilize the scalar and vector potential. And
I mean, holy shit, chat. When I heard that, I didn't listen to this before. Oh, no, I'm not muted. I didn't listen to this before yesterday. I stopped at 118. He just said there, Hal Puthoff has patents that manipulate the scalar potential. Guys, what have I been saying? I've been saying Hal Puthoff's patents are a gravity manipulation device. It's a gravity communication system. It's using the scalar potential. He's approved his patent 5 times. This guy, it wasn't even approved for the 4th or 5th time when this guy was making this video. You know what? I'm going to show us. And that's like his only patents. So that's where he's making his money. Communication system. A communication system using vector and scalar potentials is disclosed. The system uses field-free potentials signaling for many applications where the absence of shielding effects in seawater, plasma, or other dense media due to the fact of the absence of the electric and magnetic fields eliminates the possibility of induced charge and current response in the media being transited. Date of patent, October 3rd, 2023. This patent got approved 2 more times since the video we were watching. 2 more times since that video. Like, what more? Like, if you've been watching my live streams, chat, you know that Hal Puthoff is a rich man. How do you know that Hal Puthoff is a rich man? Because this patent's been approved 5 different times, and it's a literal gravity manipulation or gravity communication device. Literally gravity communication device. Approved in 1998, approved in 2018, approved in 2019, approved in 2021, and approved again in 2023. 5 times. He probably just made slight modifications to it. And he made a slight modification to it and then sold it to somebody else. So I think he's very, very rich. Very, very rich. In fact, I plan to be very, very rich as well. I mean, you always got to count on it. Because I know the secret sauce and I'm going to manipulate it. Simple as that. For as long as I'm on this earth. Yeah, if you read his patents, you might understand the secret sauce too.
There's some other great papers out there. For example, there's the theory of fluidic electrodynamics by A. Martins, Alexandra A. Martins, and he's a scientist that has published a series of papers where he compares electrodynamics to hydrodynamics, basically proposing that there's a universal ether around us that acts as a superfluid, and that when you compare hydrodynamics to electrodynamics, it all lines up. You realize they're completely analogous to each other. And he has a number of great papers out there, but the mainstream doesn't even talk about his work. Also, there's another guy, I'm not sure of his educational background, but he has written a paper online called A Brief Introduction to Scalar Physics. His name is Thomas Menderle, and it's called A Brief Introduction to Scalar Physics. It's a great document, and he has done a ton of research where he lays out how gravity, mass, inertia, even time itself is controlled by the scalar and vector potentials. And he has written a very good paper on this, and he has a website.
What was that? A brief introduction. Oh, you know who this is, chat? You guys are not going to believe this. Thomas Menderle is who he just name dropped here. Do you guys know who Thomas Menderle is? Yeah. It's Tom Montauk. Is Tom? I thought Tom's last name was Montauk. Is Tom's last name actually Menderle? Tom Montauk? Look, Tom at montauk.net. Guys, is this Tom Montauk who wrote this? Are you guys getting me now? Is this Tom Montauk, chat? Is he using an alias? Yeah, now see, you guys are like, I'm so glad I watched this, Mr. X. So legitimately yesterday or 2 days ago, chat, this is why we had to review it again. 2 days ago, I was like watching it and I heard this Tom Menderle. So I Google it and I'm like, who's Tom Menderle? I've never heard of that. And then it says Tom at montauk.net. I'm like, wait, is this Tom Montauk? Why? Because Tom Montauk understands scalar physics better than anybody I've ever spoken to on this earth. You guys can check out Hard Truths podcast with Tom Montauk. Find it in my live streams. I'll add it to the playlist after the stream tonight. You have to watch my conversation with Tom Montauk. That honestly, out of anybody I've talked to, like it's up there with Salvatore Pais and Dave Rossi. Like this guy understands scalar physics very, very well. So anyway, he goes through all the stuff here on this, and like, yes, he's right about everything. Longitudinal waves, transverse waves, displacement current, time dilation, Mach's principle, like acceleration and inertia. Just want to go to the end real quick and just see who the hell is Tom Menderle? Is that really him? Oh, it is him. It is Tom Montauk. By Montauk and Thomas Menderle. Montauk.net, right? It is him, right? See, he's using a pseudonym? Yeah, Tom Montauk, a.k.a. Thomas Menderle. Real name Thomas Cox. Runs montauk.net. It's him, chat. It's him. Wow, that's crazy that this guy was talking about Tom Montauk, chat. If he's in Rational Wiki, this is basically like Mick West Wiki. This is like Debunker Wiki. If you want to know what like the mentally ill nut jobs are thinking, you come to Rational Wiki. like literally the antithesis of its name. It's like whatever the dumbest people on the earth that are like the most normie brains that like don't understand anything about anything, they're on Rational Wiki. Spirituality and aliens and conspiracy theories. Yeah, it's him. Wow. That's crazy. What a weird connection, chat. That is just so weird for me. So this whistleblower who's like 1,000% legit. I need to talk to this guy. Guys, I need to talk to Mr. X. Somebody find me Mr. X. I need to talk to Mr. X. Rarely do I. It's like, is this like me? Like, did I go back in time and develop a Southern accent and then like do this weird interview? Like, I don't get this. It's he talks about Sapphire Project. It's just like, I don't know.
At montalk.net, montalk.net. And there's a section on scalar physics. But this guy has posted a lot of information, and I think he's a genius. And he explains this with illustrations and graphics so that the ordinary person can comprehend it. And and one thing, a couple more things about the flux line I want to mention. What's so critical is there's a lot of talk today in ufology about UFOs require these super advanced metamaterials with nanolayers.
Yeah.
That's not required to build anti-gravity vehicles. And I don't think all
guys. So you guys remember the Jerry from NASA post like 2 days ago? He was claiming that you need to have metamaterials to produce anti-gravity. That is false. 100% false. Throw that idea out. You do not need to have metamaterials to produce anti-gravity. Not at all. Not at all. You do need some level of material science to understand the concepts or to really amplify the concepts. Like microchips, microprocessor, interacting on the small scales is the best, but does not a requirement at all for metamaterials. Is the sun powered by a fusion or 0-point energy? Yes, I would argue that all energy is from 0-point energy, and the sun's energy is coming from the vacuum as well. If it's true that the sun is not actually using up the elements and burning them off in the way that we conventionally understand, it's possible the sun could last much longer than we even imagine. It could be up there for much longer. The universe could be infinitely old. We've been thinking about the universe being 14 billion years old, and recently James Webb has pushed it back to 26 billion. The universe could be trillions of years old. It really could be. Basically, take all your preconceived notions about the universe, throw them out. The sun is most likely plasma, yes.
UFOs had such exotic metamaterials. Some probably did, but I don't think they all did. I think the idea that we have to master the production of these exotic metamaterials to produce an anti-gravity craft is a flat out lie.
Do you think? Sorry, I was just going to say, do you think that Hal Puthoff is aware of something like that?
Second Hal Puthoff reference, guys. Hal Puthoff is connected to everybody. Everybody. If I had like a board on my background of like what they do in those movies with like they're trying to catch the kingpin, Hal Puthoff's face is right in the fucking center. Right in the center. He's got a goddamn gravity communication patent that's been approved 5 times, chat. A scalar gravity communication device that goes through plasma and salt water. How much do you want to bet Hal Puthoff's device is being used to communicate with submarines? Remember I told you submarines, guys.
I don't think Hal Puthoff is lying about this. I think he is just repeating what he knows. Because remember, Hal Puthoff knows a lot, but he is not a true insider.
Hal Puthoff is an insider. If he's not an insider, I'll eat my hat. I know basically for a fact that the dude's working at private military defense contractor labs. So if he's doing that and been doing that for probably a very, very, very long time, he's an insider. The guys who are engineering this stuff know more than anybody else on Earth about it. You build some shit and then you see your shit teleported in an airplane away and you know your stuff did that, right? That's why I'm tired of talking to these like analysts, people that watched video of satellite video. No, I want to talk to the engineers. The people that need to be testifying at Congress are the engineers like Hal Puthoff. Hal Puthoff needs to be compelled to testify in front of Congress and the Senate in a public, open hearing, and Ashton Forbes needs to be the one asking the questions. Frankly, I would do a better job than Nancy Mace, AOC, and any of the other four people, Anna Paulina Luna, Tim Burchett, Moshowitz, Gates, any of them. I would do better. If I do an interview with one of these engineers, we're going to have full disclosure in under 30 minutes, and we're going to have time to go get lunch afterwards. Straight up, no cap. No cap.
People like Puthoff, people like Kit Green, people, others on his team. They've been trying to get into the inside of this for a very, very long time. I would call them quasi-insiders because at most they've had some little peeks. You know, they have talked to some people that have given them some amazing information. They have nuggets of information that are pure gold. And most of this they have not even shared yet. They're keeping a lot of this information close to their chest within their organization.
Would you say that he's aware of the fact that
I'll be interviewing them, or like the Malaysian Minister of Defense guys? Put me in the room with the Malaysian Minister of Defense. We'll have a full confession to the Americans stealing the plane within 15 minutes. I only need 15 minutes with the Malaysian Minister of Defense. I'll have full confession. I'll have the guy crying in the seat in the middle of the interview, telling the truth about how the CIA forced him into doing it. 15 minutes is all I need. I'll have my Fireball with me, my apple juice, and I'll be sipping on it while I'm interviewing them. Full disclosure, 100%. Give me 30 minutes to Hal Puthoff in an interview. That's all I need. And if you doubt me, don't doubt me. Go listen to some of my old spaces that I did, like debating people. We'll get the truth, guaranteed.
These types of metamaterials that are on the kind of nano scale and isotopic ratios, do you think he knows that that's not necessary for anti-gravity travel?
I cannot say absolutely one way or the other. And I don't want to make any accusations whatsoever because I have a lot of respect for Hal Puthoff. He has been in this field a very long time. He has made many very significant contributions to this field and to science in general. But I will say that I think that he probably realizes that metamaterials are not required for anti-gravity vehicles, but that's just a guess on my part. But I was going to say is for the Fluxliner ARV, it was developed in the late 1950s, early 1960s. The most advanced material, which we had in the 60s. This is a material you can look back at the literature and see was doped barium titanate. And it was around back then. That was the green material that the capacitor plates were in. That was probably the most advanced material in the craft. What's also interesting. Go ahead.
Sorry, I've heard about like the magnesium bismuth skin with like monoatomic iridium like displaced through it in like a crystalline structure. That was something that there was like a source who was claiming to have been an S4 physicist speaking with Linda Moe and Howe, who had said that we've been using like this magnesium bismuth skin that had like monoatomic iridium or something of that description displaced throughout it. Is that something that you've heard of before?
I've heard of things like that. I was just going to say that this is generally speaking, and I'm not trying to speak in absolutes here, but I think there's probably at least two types of vehicles. There may be more. There may be hybrids. I think there's some UFOs that have crashed that utilize these plasma cores with self-organizing plasmas, because the Fluxliner ARV was reproduced from a crashed UFO. However, I think there's probably others in the second type we may not have had as much success reproducing. Maybe we have by now, but I think the second type uses these advanced metamaterials, and they may be even a little more sophisticated than the other craft.
Okay, so I want to comment on a few things that you just said there, which I think are huge. What if we did develop flying saucers and the world didn't know that we had figured out anti-gravity? Some of those flying saucers could have been our technology. Then there's also this idea of what if a civilization figured out plasma and they use the plasma as their mechanism. That's like their surfboard. It's their mechanism to move around. And what if what if plasma is just an easy way to do it? Like we could try to make a craft with the plasma, but it just adds more complexity. It's easier for it to just be a drone that we can just remote control around. what if there are metamaterials like the bismuth, magnesium, zinc that he was just talking about, where if you structure it at the atomic layer, it has some of these properties to it. So you can basically recreate the effects of the plasma using extremely advanced material science. That's a very interesting thought. That's a very interesting thought. Because now it helps us to understand the history of this. We could have figured out anti-gravity in the 40s or 50s. And maybe it took until the 90s for us to figure out that we can make a drone out of plasma and use a computer to remote control the movement in with no inertia. Maybe that's how it played out. Maybe some of the early crafts were us. And maybe we did still get them from aliens or not. Doesn't matter. And then once we've shifted over to plasma, then we never look back. Why, like right now, we have so many drones, we don't really need fighter jets. Fighter jets are mostly just for show. Like when we get serious, we break out the autonomous balls of plasma. It makes me wonder how many we probably have. We could have thousands. We could have thousands at this point.
Because again, there's not just one species visiting Earth, and it makes sense they would have different technologies. But about the Fluxliner, this is an important thing to note. Richard D'Amato, also known as Dick D'Amato, was the chief legal counsel for Senator Byrd. And he was tasked by Senator Byrd and other interested senators, this was back, I think, in the late 80s, early 90s, to investigate these carved out, waived, unacknowledged special access programs to see if we really were reverse engineering crashed UFOs. And he's mentioned multiple times in Jacques Vallée's books, Forbidden Science. And there's some fascinating quotes of his in there. He was also mentioned in Gordon Neville's manuscripts in one of his books, which is available online. Gordon Neville was a very interesting character that was associated with Mark McCandlish and Puthoff. He was a part of that group that was investigating the claims of Brad Sorensen and the claims of these other people who had witnessed the Fluxliner. And Gordon Neville claimed that in a recorded interview, I guess this recording is lost forever, but he claimed that he had Senator Byrd on tape saying that he discovered that the United States government in the 50s and 60s, from the late 50s to early 60s, that the United States government spent $75 billion reverse engineering in building a man-made UFO. How he discovered that, we don't know. Richard D'Amato currently does not comment on these issues. He has a disclaimer on his website. If you go to his official website, he has a disclaimer about this, basically a very quick denial of everything.
Thank you very much for that donation, Martin Walsh. Yeah, I try never to be 100% certain, but I'm as certain as you could possibly be. Either everything's a lie and I'm manifesting this reality with my mind, or this technology is just real and it's actually just out there and hidden, and all this stuff is real. What did I want to say? I just lost my train of thought. But yeah, what he's about to say here as well, in terms of like this science, is that you can look at the history of how this has played out. And this is where more and more it feels like the alien stuff is just a psyop. Now, the thing is, the crazy part about it is that aliens could be a psyop because we've got this technology and we want people talking about aliens and not understanding it. At the same time, aliens become a very realistic possibility if we can hop solar systems, hop galaxies in the blink of an eye with a wormhole. So this is where it's kind of funny. The aliens could be a psyop, but this being true also opens the door to aliens in a way that mainstream people don't accept right now, which is everything's too far away. Well, if everything's not too far away anymore and life is abundant everywhere in the universe, and I actually think that it is, then there's going to be aliens out there. In fact, there's going to be a lot of aliens out there, most likely. Especially if the universe is much older than we think as well. The older the universe gets, there must be stuff everywhere. And the only reason why we don't think that right now is because SETI doesn't find radio signals everywhere. And also the radio signals travel at the speed of light, so it's very, very, very slow. But we don't see the techno-signatures. But a lot of people speculate maybe that's just because we're not looking for the right signals. An advanced civilization using zero-point energy, which maybe that's the real peak of technology, we're going to see those as scalar potentials, not as longitudinal electromagnetic waves. And if we are looking for that, what if, this is why I say that when we turn up LIGO, the gravity wave device, from going from low frequency to high frequency, I think the universe is going to light up. We're going to see technosignatures everywhere. So that's my little gift to the alien people that are out there that are fans of aliens or whatever. I am not ruling out aliens. I never have been. I'm just telling you what we're seeing in the MH370 videos is not aliens. That is not aliens. That is the work of humans.
But
Right.
he claimed to Gordon Neville, allegedly, if Gordon Neville is telling the truth, if you believe him, that he discovered that $75 billion was spent replicating this technology. And like I said before, I believe the Fluxliner ARV was most likely just the first of a long series of different vehicles that utilized this self-organizing plasma technology. And I believe this version of the technology is way simpler than the metamaterials. I think the whole idea of having to, utilize these metamaterials to produce anti-gravity is a distraction. I believe it's to push us off course, because these special access programs know that they're not absolutely required. And if that technology ever got out, this self-organizing plasma technology, and if the truth came out that we developed anti-gravity vehicles, every country in the world could reproduce this in no time flat. And just imagine how much money Lockheed, for example, would lose, because they sell billions of dollars every year worth of aircraft to the United States military. And
I was like literally almost in tears listening to this yesterday. Holy shit, chat. Holy shit. Like if this interview had come out in the middle of the investigation, or even now, I would be like, who is this guy? Are they one of my followers? Like, who is this? The fact this is 4 years ago, and he's saying everything that I've been independently figured out and investigating. The metamaterial stuff is just a distraction to make us think that we need some very advanced level of material science to figure it out. The plasmas, the self-organizing plasmas, are simple to create. That's why the secrecy is so high. We can't have people figuring out that we have self-organizing plasma, that we can make drones out of plasma that can just perform magic, Harry Potter magic, because it's simple to reproduce. It doesn't require, just requires an understanding of the universe. It doesn't actually require like a lot of actual technology to pull off, compared to fabricating metamaterials at the atomic scale, which is a lot more complicated. That's the part where you realize quickly, why is this true? Why is it true that it's all about these plasmas? Because the plasmas are free energy. They are free energy. They are tapping into the ether and they're producing energy from the vacuum, cold fusion, with no input, except for maybe just atmosphere, like air. Like they can literally just tap directly into the 0 point energy. So these are why this stuff is classified or secret, not even classified, just secret under the Atomic Secrecy Act of 1954. And this is why it's under the Department of Energy. Why else? People wonder, why is UFO stuff hidden under the Department of Energy? It's not. Aliens aren't hidden under the Department of Energy. Fusion is. Cold fusion is being kept secret by the United States government under the Department of Energy. You're literally hearing probably stuff that would be reported on in skiffs behind the scenes right now. This science. Because they don't want the world to know how simple it is. That's why it has to be kept secret. If it was complicated, you don't really need to keep it secret. The fact that it's simple is the reason why it has to be kept secret. That's why the national security issue is the cold fusion. The national security issue is the balls of plasma. Just like in the Fallout TV show. Just like in the Fallout TV show, we literally are living in Star Trek mixed with Fallout. That's our world right now. It's like space communism, but the fascists are in control. So it gets the worst of both worlds. Space communism plus fascist control, great. But you want to know the worst part, chat? This is the worst part. I've actually been getting a little bit depressed thinking about this. Get ready for it. Take a swig of beer first. You aren't going to want to miss this. I'm not building up for no reason. I think that we have to have fascist control in order to harness this technology. I can't stop thinking about the Peter Thiel discussion on Joe Rogan, where he says we have to either be all angels or all demons. Like, we literally have to control everything about everyone so that there's basically no independent thought or freedom. Because without that, we are going to destroy ourselves with this plasma technology. 100%. I have no doubt we are going to destroy our civilization. I can't stop thinking about it. And the only way that we prevent it is that we have full fascist control, which goes against everything that I stand for as a libertarian. Instead of we're doing all of this for decentralizing and giving power back to the people. And when we do that, we assure our own destruction. Assured destruction. It's just a matter of time. Over time, everything will happen. And over time, somebody will use the doomsday weapon to wipe us all out. Scary. Yeah, it is what it is.
They like that because it's a constant, steady, secure income stream. And if all of a sudden they had 100 different competitors around the world building vehicles that could do laps around an F-18, then they would lose money. And their bottom line is more important to them than anything else. And so they don't want this technology to emerge because it would literally change every aspect of human civilization.
So kind of almost going
back.
So
the other part that I didn't hit on there is that, people say, why is Elon Musk shooting rockets? Why is Elon Musk making boom rocket go up in air real high? Ha, 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 clap, steel clap, steel clap. Because they make money doing it. The fact that the public, that's why the public doesn't know about the technology. Because if they knew about it, they'd say, we've been wasting billions and billions of dollars on obsolete technology like F-22s and F-35s when we have plasmas that render it completely obsolete before it ever even takes off. Why are we doing that? We're doing that because it makes money and it keeps people stupid. We're doing that because the whole goal is to not tell people about the technology. Because once they figure out that self-organizing plasma, I can have my own little Jarvis here. If I have my own little Jarvis, a little AI, and it's just telling me everything I need to do. Hey, AI, Jarvis, tell me about this or that. Like, the whole world's going to change. It's going to collapse. And if you're one of those businesses, you depend on all of that income to exist. Where are you going to invest it all in now? Like, other people are going to jump into the market and they're going to compete. And people are going to sue the shit out of Lockheed Martin. Why? Because Lockheed Martin's got plasma technology. They've been unfairly competing in the marketplace for like 75 years. They're going to get sued out of existence. The defense contractors are going to get sued out of existence for hiding this technology from the world. They're like bidding on contracts for airplanes that are all obsolete, and they know they're obsolete. It's fraud in every sense of the word. So when you ask, like, why are they doing UAP bills that give people amnesty? This is why. Because these companies are going to get sued out of existence for hiding this. It's not just the government. In fact, it's mostly the private defense contractors. This is why they're monitoring me. This is why the defense contractors are part of this elite that rule the world. They have their own military security forces. They have their own hacker forces as well. The people that hacked the MH370 cloud images, that could have been the private defense contractors that hacked them onto like Jonas's hard drive or whatever the place where those pictures are being stored. That might not even have been the government, guys. In fact, it was most likely private military contractor hackers that did that. They keep everything outsourced. So just like when you think about how crazy this world is, keep that in mind. The private military contractors have their own security forces and have their own cyber hacker forces to just fuck with people on the internet.
To the Salvatore patents and things kind of coming out of TTSA, and would you be of the...
He also just name dropped the Salvatore Pais patents, which this is an interesting take, guys. We have like 5 more minutes of this.
Opinion that this is I mean, it is essentially, there are elements of this which are a disclosure because there has been information provided to the public just in regards to removing stigma on the UFO subject in some ways. But would you say that the actual bare bones technology aspect, the release of patents, the kind of discussions of technology that's already been given, the kind of time scale that's been given in regards to this is still maybe 100 years ahead of where we are right now, would you say that that element of the disclosure is actually misinformation and maybe misdirection for foreign countries when they're looking at what's happening in America? And they're maybe giving them technology, like we said, with the patents that are potentially misdirections away from the more simplistic technology that they're trying to keep a hold of.
I would agree. I would agree with that. In essence, I think what they are doing, and again, I don't think the inventor of these patents, I have trouble pronouncing his name. I want to say that he seems like a very bright guy, a very intelligent guy. I think he's being honest, and I don't think he's in on anything. But I think its supervisors, for the same reasons you're saying, are letting these patents go through, or actually contacting the patent office, and trying to support these patents and push them through so that can serve the function you just described, to basically distract people away from the true simplicity of the real anti-gravity technologies.
So, wow. Couldn't be more wrong on that take from that guy. So he couldn't say Salvatore Pais' name. And this is the part where I'm surprised he didn't recognize the physics. Because if I look at Salvatore Pais' patents, I say you add all those up and you have an orb of plasma that can move through various mediums, transmedium craft with no inertia. I add up Salvatore Pais' patents and I get a floating ball of plasma. This guy, Mr. X, didn't realize that Salvatore Pais' patents actually add up to the exact thing that he's been talking about, self-organizing plasmas. That's why I plan to ask Salvatore Pais about self-organizing plasmas, whether or not he produced the orbs in the videos or if he knows who did, and other relevant questions that you guys are not going to want to miss on November 24th.
I'm not saying these patents wouldn't work. I'm just saying, in my opinion, they're overly complicated. They, I think they are a distraction. They're basic concepts. And he describes systems that would.
Salvatore Pais' patents are anything but overly complicated. If anything, they're actually overly simplistic, and they're definitely not distractions. And they're only simplistic to people that don't understand or that already understand the concepts. But the point is, they're written in a way that normal people can understand what they mean.
Would be, very, in some cases, a little convoluted to actually build from a practical point of view.
Okay,
I'm not saying Richard Doty was intentionally giving her information. He was just obeying orders. But so they plant disinformation. And that's what's so horrible about these special access programs. They manipulate the public. They have been manipulating the world, but not only the general public like you and me and UFO researchers. They don't even tell the full truth to 99.9% of the military hierarchy, the generals, the joint
right,
chiefs.
and that's the major concern, right?
Yeah, they don't tell them the full truth when they haven't. I mean, we have a right to know fundamentally. We, the public, the government, and the military.
So the generals and the admirals, they don't even know, guys. The military has no idea. So if you hear military people say, "Oh, I was in the military, I didn't see any of that. I was high ranking, blah blah blah," doesn't mean a single thing. Doesn't mean anything at all. Most of this technology is being hidden with defense contractors. So that means unless you use the weapon, the secret super weapon, as a member of the military, you would have no idea. Unless you were using the PFM, you're not going to know it even exists.
Exists to serve us, we the people. However, the military has an even more immediate need to know. The leaders of the military need to know the truth, the full truth about all this. Also, their Congress and their senators, they cannot make proper decisions without this information. Not only do they need to make decisions about technological research, because why should we spend billions of dollars funding hot fusion research or even solar power technologies when we've had technologies like the core of the flux liner, which produces massive amounts of energy. The taxpayer is being forced to pay for useless research like mainstream hot fusion research when we've already paid for the development of the flux liner, for example. Also, the presidents, I doubt most presidents are even told the full truth about the UFO phenomenon.
Yeah, the presidents are not being told the full truth. Hot plasma is a scam. Solar panels are a scam as well. It's all about cold fusion plasma. We don't need hot fusion. That's stupid. We're wasting our time with the hot fusion stuff. And that's what they're trying to do with all these tokamak reactors. They're all being stupid because they think that must be hot, good, hot make plasma, hot make like sun. Instead of being like, oh, we can produce negative energy and now you can produce a cold fusion. Cold fusion. The orbs in the MH370 videos are colder than the jet engine. Keep that in mind. That means it's pretty cold. Definitely not temperatures of the sun.
Obviously, Bill Clinton was not told the full truth because him and Hillary were extremely curious. I doubt they tell most presidents hardly anything. And if they ask, they probably just tell them the smallest amount they can get away with. And it's completely against the concept of a true democracy. You know, basically, individuals associated with To the Stars Academy, such as trying to think of his first name, he's a physicist. I think it's Bernard Haisch. Bernard Haisch had a website that was recently taken down. It was called ufoskeptic.org, but he really wasn't a skeptic. He was a believer because of all the research he did.
Bernard Haisch. There's another name drop, chat. That's our daily word score. I found a scientific paper by Bernard Haisch. Actually, I think this was sent to me. I don't want to pretend like I found it. The 0-point field, a NASA challenge to create the space drive. Bernard Haisch, Alfonso Rueda. Now, if you recognize Rueda's name, it's because he wrote the paper with Haisch about gravity is being explained, or inertia being explained by 0-point fluctuations. I believe it was the inertia one. And in this paper here, he talks about the NASA Breakthrough Propulsion Physics Workshop, which included Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis. He talks about the Alcubierre warp drive, the inertialess drive, which would act exactly like controllable gravity field, had never been discussed seriously outside of the pages of scientific fiction until recently. But in 1994, 3 physicists did exactly this. So I'm going to go through this at a very quick level. 0-point field at Planck's field talks about black body radiation. I believe it also talks about the Zitterbuergong in here in terms of being Schrodinger's explanation that things are still jittering even at the quantum level. Goes through all the math. 0-point field in stochastic electrodynamics, which is SED as opposed to QED. He explains inertia here from 0-point fluctuations. Motion and gravity can be explained here. Again, this is all based on 0-point energy as an explanation for all these things. Now, one thing that he does say, which surprised me, is he says that the impossibility of negative mass. The impossibility. He didn't believe that negative mass was possible. But I think that where he messed up was that he didn't convert mass to energy. Mass and energy, those terms are interchangeable. So inertial, so negative mass can be changed to negative energy, and negative energy might be real, but negative mass might not be real. His explanation didn't really make any sense to me. He just basically said that a flux of 0-point fluctuation radiation arises in an accelerated frame. When this flux is scattered by the charged particles within any object, a reaction force is generated proportional to the acceleration and the proper volume of the object. This immediately rules out science fiction probability like negative mass. I think that what he's saying here is that gravity only seems to work one way, therefore negative mass is not possible. I think that's what his argument is here, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me because it's kind of a circular reasoning. Now, one last thing that I'll address is that somewhere in here, somebody responded to Puthoff's claims, and so we might look at that if we have time here, although we're starting to run out. I want to play like one more minute of the Mr. X video, then we're going to come back to this. So, but somewhere down here, I want to read the, oh, here it is. Carlip comments on 0 point as a gravity as a 0 point fluctuation force. This is somebody's rebuttal to Hal Puthoff. And I want to know what this rebuttal is, because even the debunkers don't know what the rebuttal is right now. Even physicists don't know what the rebuttal is. So I want to read that rebuttal, and then I want to read the rebuttal of the rebuttal, because Puthoff responded back. So supposedly Carlip in 1993 said something about arguing against 0 point gravity as a 0 point fluctuation force. So maybe there are some aspects of the theory that, you know, they need a better explanation. God, Lulu, chill. Lulu just drank like a whole cup of water, a whole bucket of water there. Lulu, chill. Okay.
Because what he was told by people, you know, in very prominent positions and scientists and so forth, you know, he was told flat out that people in charge of the UFO cover-up really are elitist. They think they know what's best for humanity. They think only they are qualified to make these decisions. They have complete disregard for the military hierarchy, for our elected officials, our legitimately elected officials in our country, or congressmen or senators, the president. They think they know better. They think they are these ultra intelligent elites that have somehow they believe they have the right to control this whole topic, but they don't.
That's the thing, isn't it? I mean, in some ways, it's kind of it's kind of what everyone sometimes suffers from, and I guess it's like self-selected benevolence. You know, you think you're in the right, and you believe you've got the right to do something, and you don't. And this is a really, you know, case in point with this kind of subject in regards to just the acquisition of tech. Basically, the fact that we're not alone in the universe, and all of these things have been kept not only under wraps, but actually openly mocked and ridiculed in the public, so that we've been given this really skewed perception on the entire subject, which is now having to slowly be you know, the damage of that slowly having to be undone. And in regards to democracy.
So that's good enough. I just wanted that last part with the elites. So the part there with the elites, basically, you know, there's elites that know about this. And the thing too is that this also answers a question in the chat. Somebody said about Peter Thiel and Lou Elizondo, because being in the know, there's not some rank you achieve or social hierarchy you achieve, and all of a sudden you're in the know. The thing about the people that are in the club is that they come from different levels, and yes, they still think that they know better than everybody else for the most part, because they do, frankly. The fact that they're like one of the 0.1% that were able to figure out that the science is real, the technology is real. Even you guys in the chat, this is part of the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing in terms of waking people up. I'm literally empowering you guys with this information that puts you at the level of the elites that know about this. In some cases, there's people in the military that aren't very high ranked, but they know about this stuff because they have been exposed to the science. They've been exposed to the weapons. They've been exposed to stuff that they know conventional physics can't explain. And they start looking into it and they find out it's all legit. Now you're an insider. In other cases, it's billionaires. Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel knows because he's connected to the CIA. So, of course, he knows about this technology. He may not know all the answers. He may not be read into the special access programs, but he knows it's real because he's talking to people that are insiders that know. Lou Elizondo is pushing intentional disinformation because he knows. Lou Elizondo knows that free energy, 0 point energy is real. He knows it's real. He's probably been in skiffs where they've said it. Does he understand the physics? Not really, but he knows it's real because he's been behind the closed doors and in the skiffs and he's seen the stuff. And he's protecting national security because he knows and he's been told that it's an issue of national security and will destroy you if you expose it. Just like they did Edward C. Lin. They destroyed him. They made an example out of Edward C. Lin. And of course they made an example out of Edward C. Lin. Look at what he leaked. Edward C. Lin leaked the most important videos in the history of the world that exposed our most powerful super weapon to the world. And they expose we've been lying about free energy. They expose that all of these fusion reactors are all a scam. It's all a waste of money. Airplanes are a waste of money. These videos expose everything. So, of course, they made an example of Edward C. Lin. Even if he didn't know what he was looking at the time, they still had to make an example out of him because they have to make sure that nobody ever leaks videos like this ever again. They have to send a message that if you're somebody that leaks videos like this on the internet, we're going to ruin your life. Lou Elizondo literally wrote in his book about a video that he's seen that shows 3 orbs in a perfect triangle formation. You think that's a coincidence? No. Lou Elizondo knows some truths. He's just lying about, like, here's the way I'll explain it. Actually, this is the perfect way. When you understand a person, when you understand a man, then you understand when he's telling the truth and when he's lying. I understand Lou Elizondo. I think that in general, he's an honest guy. I get a very high level of credibility from him, except for and he's open about this. He's honest. He says, I'm going to protect national security. This is what Michael Schellenberger says as well. Michael Schellenberger said, I'm not Julian Assange. You guys should repeat this back to him, by the way. Michael Schellenberger said, I'm not Julian Assange. I'm not going to harm national security. He literally asked for permission to do his story on Immaculate Constellation. Why? No one gives a shit about aliens and Immaculate Constellation in the Pentagon. Fine. You want to go talk about aliens? Go nuts. Nobody's stopping you. They're going to stop you from talking about free energy and cold fusion. That's where they're going to stop you. They're going to stop you when you start talking about self-organizing plasmas and exotic vacuum objects and Ken's shoulders. And we've been hiding this shit for decades. That's where they stop you. Okay. So we looked at Bernard Haisch. I don't think I need to go much more into that, but let's quickly check out what this guy is. I don't know. Hopefully it's not too long. Carlip, 1993. Comments on gravity as 0-point fluctuation force. I'm going to Google this real quick. Okay, I found it. Okay, well, how do we watch? Oh, here's PDF. Nope, don't have access. Okay, the thing says, let's just get a feel for it before we dig into it. Claims to derive Newtonian gravity from stochastic electrodynamics contains a serious computational error. When the calculation is corrected, the resulting force is shown to be non-gravitational and negligible. Okay, seems like being a little bit over picky, but see if we can find the whole thing. Looks like we can't, because how would somebody, if you're critiquing someone, how do you not make it publicly available? I'm not paying for your critique of somebody else's thing. Maybe this is it. It goes back to this one. Okay, well, we'll have to work on trying to find that. Now, let's take a look at the comment. Wait, no, where's the reply? Reply to Hal Puthoff's is probably available. Yeah, Hal Puthoff's is available. Although mathematically self-consistent, Carlip's approach to the reanalysis of Sakharov's gravity is flawed by the neglect of the important physical constraints associated with the interaction and leads to an incorrect 1 divided by R4 spatial dependence for the force. When appropriate physical cutoffs are incorporated into the modeling, however, inverse square law Newtonian gravity emerges as originally derived. Okay. So basically, nope. So basically what Carlip was saying is that Puthoff didn't do the calculations correctly, and then Puthoff comes back and says, no, you're not really looking at the dimensional interaction correctly, the spatial dimension interaction. So what physics generally has an error doing is they try to oversimplify things, which is what we've seen as well with scalar physics getting disappeared by Maxwell when he reduces scalar potential. So this is just my opinion from having read a lot of the sciences. A lot of it is that physics is trying to make everything two-dimensional, very basic. But our reality has 3 spatial dimensions and 1 time dimension. And so we don't need to be looking at like energy in a flat plane. We need to be looking at energy in a cube of energy. We need to be looking at space like that. And that's how I believe that some of these theoretical physicists have been misled, is that they're arguing over what the math and physics should look like related to dimensions. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is what can we produce? And then we need to be able to explain how that gets produced. So you see a lot of physicists arguing over how many dimensions are there, blah, blah, blah. What they're really getting at is like, how should they view the universe? And we now know the answer. There's at least one more dimension filled with energy. So that's our fifth dimension, the ether. More than that, I don't know. I don't care. All I really need is 5 dimensions to explain everything that's going on. And those 5 dimensions are enough. So people say, is string theory a trap or a distraction? Possibly. Could be. I'm pretty sure I don't need 11 dimensions to explain everything that's going on. After 5, I have no idea what you're talking about either. 3 spatial dimensions, 1 time dimension, 1 dimension filled with energy that we don't perceive actively around us, but it's there. We know it's there. We can measure it. Okay. Hey, Salvatore Chaos at a Halloween party. Say hi to everybody in the Halloween party, guys. Okay, so I think we're going to call it there tonight. Been a good stream. I hope you learned a little bit more about 0-point energy, about free energy, about cold fusion. Definitely going to check out that guy, this Catalyzed energy cell NG8. Very, very interesting device, especially because it's coming out of Russia. Very curious to know more about it. Now, a little bit of housekeeping, guys. Salvatore Pais interview November 24th. November 24th, Salvatore Pais interview. I'm probably either going to do it just with Salvatore Pais, or maybe I'll do an hour with Salvatore Pais and then have Dave Rossi join halfway through. Because I have some direct questions I want to ask Salvatore Pais without anybody else on the call. That's why. I'm going out of town for work, so I will not have live streams on Monday or on Wednesday. Yes, I'm broken up about it as well. No live streams Monday or Wednesday. I'm out of town. So instead, Thursday, I'll have a live stream. And then Friday is my birthday. Probably have a live stream on Friday as well. Celebrating. So instead, Thursday and Friday live streams. Next week, there basically just won't be a Malaysian Airlines Monday. Yeah, I finally have to travel again for work. Man. Anyway, that's it, guys. Thank you, MH370X. You guys have a great night. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight. Peace, everybody. Love you guys.
In the fields where the skies are wide, talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space, traversable paths to a far off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight, just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate. Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow. Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum, squeeze so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course. Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow. Thin shell formalism, plates so fine, spherical geometry we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Forces balancing the plates, creating the throat, open the gates, From Earth to the stars in a single bound. A shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow. From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula Crunk shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night. With wormholes and stargates, our path is clear. Exploring